Hey guys, well, as I mentioned in my account update, the possibility of me going to the Pacific Crest Trail this year is still kind of up in the air. That doesn't mean that I can't work through my gear. Um, Basically, I want to make sure that if it comes down to it, that I'm all set to go. Whether, I figure out the funding, the food, all that stuff comes in, I want to make sure the gear's squared away. There are some things that I'll probably be looking to upgrade. This stuff is now about 2 years old. Most of my gear I bought 2 years ago that when I was planning on doing it. So there are some other lighter options out there. Ultralight backpacking as a whole generally kind of gets a negative connotation to it. There's a lot of negativity in the forums, for ultralight backpacking, and part of it is that gear Nazi mentality, where if you don't have the $400 sleeping bag, you're not going to be saving those 2 ounces, and you're not as good as me. Now, I think there is something good about healthy competition. How light can you go? How much minimal kit can you carry? There's plenty of really good learning that can be done with that. And when you get into the ultralight community, I don't find those negative connotations and the negative attitudes that you'll find on the forums. And part of that is just the whole internet being anonymous and being able to say whatever you want to say. It becomes this shouting match, and it's no different than all the Altoid survival tins out there. You're not really going to be using Altoid survival tins, but it's a good exercise of how much crap can I fit into an Altoid tin. And it becomes this competition of people coming up with different ideas and things like that. When you really get into ultralight backpacking, what it comes down to is being able to utilize the stuff that you have for more things, having multi-use items, coming up with ways to be just as comfortable with less gear. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't always have to be about the $400 sleeping bag and the 2 ounce backpack. It's things like using hand sanitizer, not just for sanitation, not just for fire making, for chafing. There's a lot of really cool multi-use items that you're going to find. I mean, just a lightweight bandana instead of carrying a bunch of other crap. Using your socks for gloves. You can get as crazy as you want with it. And with that, we're going to go over a little bit of the terminology, and hopefully we can dispel some of the confusion of ultralight backpacking. Now, I won't be as tedious weighing crap as I did before. Those videos are fairly tedious and boring. I admit they are. But it was a good exercise to go through and find out what was good weight, what was bad weight, products that you could use to lighten things up, and really it comes down to what you're willing to carry. We're going to show some things later that as an ultralight backpacker I could use on a day hike, a weekend hike, stuff like that. When you're talking through hiking, such as the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide, PCT, those trails, when you're talking about through hiking, it's even its own category. You're not going to get away with little 1/4 ounce bottles of hand sanitizer like you would on a weekend or a day hike of ultralight backpacking. But there are still guys that go out there with sub 5 pound base weights, and we're going to kind of go through that and what some of the terminology is when you talk about people talking about the weight that they carry. The first thing we're going to go over is just the big three, and the big three are the biggest weight saving areas you can look for, and there's different, everyone's going to have their own idea of what's better and what's worse. Again, this gear is a couple years old. This is an REI UL 45. It's called the Quick 45. It's a 45 liter backpack. It's pretty decent. It doesn't have a whole lot of frills. It's made out of a decent nylon. It does have a top, which a lot of backpacks will save weight on by taking the lid off. It does have 2 aluminum stays down the center. I believe there's a separate video I did of this when I was going through all the bug out gear sort of things. This comes in at 2 pounds 9 ounces, which I believe is a pretty respectable weight for a commercial pack. When you're talking about it's not made by a specific ultralight dealer. There's the Osprey Exo, is also a very nice pack that's pretty mainstream. There's also the Go Light Jam Series, Jam Pro, There's some pretty good lightweight options out there that are in the mainstream. Then you get into sort of the secondary market, the specialized market, and you're talking to the Gossamer Gear, the Alpine Lights. You can get some packs that are made of nothing but sil nylon. This lightweight pack material with a little bit of netting. You lose the frame sheet, so a lot of guys will substitute their floor pads or sleeping pads for stability in there. But I've seen 9-ounce packs, 7-ounce packs. But when you get to more of those exotic materials, the sil nylons, the Cuban fiber, that stuff is going to make the cost go up. It's not that it's that much cooler to have a 9-ounce pack, but when you get the benefits of having a 9-ounce pack, you'll kind of understand. Being able to move lighter, quicker, be less fatigued at the end of the day is really what it's all about. Doing more with less and enjoying yourself instead of being sore. My other part of my big three right now is it's the Rei Halo 40-degree bag, and I've had other reviews on this as well. This is only a 40-degree bag. Now, this works pretty well for my ultralight setup. If I were to do the Pacific Crest Trail, I would probably get into like a Jax or better, some of their Snivellers. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically a quilt. It's a big down quilt with a foot box so your feet stay in it. Excuse me. And the Snivellers have a open section in the middle where you can literally wear it like a poncho, like a sleeveless jacket. But my Rei 40 here, which is considered my ultralight sleeping bag that I have, the 40-degree Halo is 1 pound 13 ounces. Still respectable. It's under that 2-pound mark. Again, it's a mainstream thing. You'll also see a theme with REI stuff because they frequently put gear on a very large clearance, and that's where you're going to see me pick up most of the stuff. I bought this and this both on clearance 2 different years when I was getting stuff together, so it's going to be an ongoing theme. Now, your other portion of the big three, puff that down, this going to be shelter. My ultralight now that I go with is a 5x8 poncho. It allows me to integrate rain gear and my shelter, basically a lightweight tarp, in there. So that is a 5x8 tarp. It's only 8.5 ounces, extremely light. The part that gets a little bit heavier, that I consider part of my lightweight shelter, is I have a Outdoor Research Bivvy, and it does have its own bug netting. Again, I have separate reviews on I think most of this stuff because I've had this for quite a few years in the bug out series. And the bug out series, it was just basically giving you guys ideas and going over specific gear. So that's both carried as my shelter unit. The Bivvy itself is a little bit heavy. It's 18 ounces. It's just over a pound. You can get, like I said, you go to those specialized ultralight ones. They're not terribly expensive. In fact, they're probably cheaper than this Bivvy that I got here. Down to 7-8 ounces, so you can get it really light. This, as my big three, is 96.5 ounces. That is, let me do the math, that's actually right at 6 pounds. 96 ounces would be right at 6 pounds. So to be lightweight, ultralight, I would suggest getting your big three under 6 pounds to be ultralight. Now, if you just want to kind of go lightweight, you can consider your big three under 9 pounds. Basically, having a backpack under 3 pounds, sleeping bags under 3 pounds, and a shelter system under 3 pounds, you're going to be considered lightweight. To get that ultralight moniker and really get it down, your big three should be under 6 pounds. And you can go extreme. They're called sub-ultralights. What you're going to see is basically like a sub-ultralight. Guy's going to carry a 5-pound base weight. And we'll get to those, vocabulary in a little bit. But this video, I wanted to start off the ultralight series again, go over the gear. Now, this doesn't mean if I can't get to the Pacific Crest Trail this year, more than likely I'll be picking up other gear. What I'd really like to do, like I said, is to get the Sniveller to get my sleeping bag weight down. I'd also go with I have a Go Light Strangler 5 that you guys haven't seen, and the 5 is a little bit big. I use that for my winter shelter. The 3 would be pretty good. It's basically a teepee tarp setup. You can Google it, and it's a little over 2 pounds, but again, it's floorless, so it's just a shelter. It doesn't have bug netting or anything like that. What I'll probably be going with, if I can get the gear and the money together, is Montbell Crescent 1. That would be my choice, and we'll get into that down the road. But here's my big 3 that I currently own, but it's still under 6 pounds, and I was still able to do it. This is an REI clearance. I got this for $35. They're normally like $90. But again, I was stuck with the bright, obnoxious yellow. For 35 bucks, I didn't have a choice of color. Outdoor Research was discontinuing this style of bivvy. This was sort of their ultralight one. They have several different more alpine ones with poles. I don't believe they're making this one anymore. I picked this up actually at Outdoor Research during one of their garage sales up in Seattle, Washington, and you know, it was a great deal, and it works pretty well. So make sure we can get your gear under 6 pounds, and just, you know, guys don't have to just